Welcome to Shon's Storytime videos for kids every day of the week. Today's story is I Am a Cat by Jamie Marie Edwards.
Mr. Cat's sleepy eyes slowly opened as he felt the warmth of the sun's rays stream into the living room. He rolled to the left and then to the right, allowing the rays to dance up and down his back. It's morning again, he thought with a squint. Before leaving for his morning stroll, he lapped some water and nibbled some food from his bowl. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Mr. Cat then licked his paw and used it to wipe his face clean. He stretched his whole body and then sat in front of the open door, calculating his next move. A moment later, he darted outside. Off Mr. Cat went on his morning stroll. Mr. Cat strolled 3 blocks and then stopped. "I feel a little tired," he said with a yawn. He looked to the left and then to the right and saw a shady spot under a bench. What a perfect place to catch some Z's. He stretched his back, yawned again, and then curled up under the bench. Mr. Cat was fast asleep until his nap was interrupted by the pesky buzzing of Mrs. B. "Wake up, you lazy cat," she buzzed. "Don't you want to be like me? If you were like me, you could make sweet honey and pollinate the flowers. It's great to be me." "But I am a cat," he replied. "I'm not made to do that." As Mrs. B buzzed away, Mr. Cat wondered if life would be better if he were a bee. He yawned again and then drifted back to sleep. After his nap, Mr. Cat continued his stroll. He noticed Mrs. Duck and her ducklings wading swiftly down the lake. "Hello, Mr. Cat," she quacked. "Don't you want to be like me? If you were like me, you could have fun diving in and out of the water. It's great to be me." "But I am a cat," he replied. "I'm not made to do that." As Mrs. Duck and her ducklings swam away, Mr. Cat wondered if life would be better if he were a duck. Thirsty now, Mr. Cat stood by the edge of the lake and lapped some water. He saw Mrs. Turtle sunbathing on a log that was floating by. Beep, 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 beep. Mr. Cat was startled by the sound of a distant car horn and quickly scrambled up to the lowest branch of a nearby tree. "Hello, Mr. Scaredy Cat," Mrs. Turtle called out. "Don't you want to be like me? If you were like me, you would have a hard shell to protect your body. It's great to be me." Then Mrs. Turtle disappeared inside her shell. "But I am a cat," he replied. "I'm not made to do that." He watched as Mrs. Turtle played peekaboo, darting her head in and out of her shell. She seemed to be having a lot of fun. With a sigh, Mr. Cat wondered if life would be better if he were a turtle. "Cat got your tongue?" Mr. Bird chirped. "What seems to have captured your thoughts?" Mr. Cat looked around and finally saw Mr. Bird sitting on a branch, one tree over. Mr. Bird quickly took off, flapping his wings. He made a circle in the air and then glided back to the tree. "Don't you want to be like me?" Mr. Bird sang. "If you were like me, you could have the best of both worlds. You could walk on the grass and soar high above the trees. Flying south for the winter is always a treat. It's great to be me." "But I am a cat," he replied. "I'm not made to do that." As Mr. Bird flew away, Mr. Cat wondered if life would be better if he were a bird. Crack, crack, crack. Ouch, Mr. Cat said. What was that? 3 little chips of wood had fallen from above, hitting him on the head. He looked up and saw Mr. Squirrel and 3 of his friends scurrying up and down the bark of the tree. Sorry for that, Mr. Squirrel squeaked. My friends and I are having fun playing tag in the tree. Don't you want to be like me? If you were like me, you would have eyes on the side of your face, and you could see to the left and the right without having to turn your head. But I am a cat, he replied. I am not made to do that. As Mr. Squirrel continued to chase his friends in the tree, Mr. Cat wondered if life would be better if he were a squirrel. Mr. Cat looked down and saw Mr. Caterpillar munching on a leaf. After he finished that leaf, he wormed his way across the branch and began munching on another leaf. Don't you want to be like me? Mr. Caterpillar said. If you were like me, you could spin yourself into a cocoon and transform into a beautiful butterfly. I can't wait. One day I will have colorful wings. It's great to be me. But I am a cat, he replied. I am not made to do that. As Mr. Caterpillar continued munching on his leaf, Mr. Cat wondered if life would be better if he were a caterpillar. Mr. Cat walked across the branch, carefully avoiding Mr. Caterpillar, and climbed down the trunk of the tree. He continued his stroll and then stopped suddenly at the cry of a small voice. Hey, watch it, Mr. Cat! You almost destroyed my home! Mr. Cat looked down and saw Mrs. Ant marching in a straight line with her friends. The trail of ants carried morsels of food into their little hole and then marched back out to get some more. Mrs. Ant finally stopped to take a rest. Mr. Cat, don't you want to be like me? She asked. If you were like me, you would be a great architect and could build your own home. It's great to be me. But I am a cat, he replied. I am not made to do that. As Mrs. Ant got back into line with the other ants, Mr. Cat wondered if life would be better if he were an ant. I feel a little tired, Mr. Cat said with a big yawn. He looked to the left and then to the right and saw a shady spot under an oak tree. What a perfect place to catch some Z's. He stretched his back, yawned again, and then curled up in the shade of the tree. Mr. Cat was fast asleep until his nap was interrupted. Watch out, watch out! A husky voice in the distance howled. Mr. Cat was almost clobbered by Mr. Dog's ball. Lazy cat, he said. Were you taking another nap? The closer Mr. Dog got, the more afraid Mr. Cat got. He quickly ran up the oak tree. You don't have to be afraid of me, Mr. Dog yelped. Right now, I'm having plenty of fun playing fetch with my favorite ball. So come down out of the tree. Mr. Cat stayed just where he was. Don't you want to be like me? Mr. Dog yapped. If you were like me, you would be called man's best friend and you could do cool tricks. It's great to be me. But I am a cat, he replied. I'm not made to do that. As Mr. Dog ran off to continue playing with his favorite ball, Mr. Cat came down from the tree and curled up in the shade to resume his nap. Before drifting off, Mr. Cat wondered if life would be better if he were a dog. During his nap, Mr. Cat dreamt he was a bee and was able to make sweet honey and pollinate beautiful flowers. Then he dreamt how refreshing it would be if he were a duck and able to dive in and out of the coolness of the lake. Then he smiled in his sleep as he dreamt about being able to play peekaboo like a turtle. Then he dreamt of soaring across the big blue sky with lots of friends, just like a bird. Then he dreamt of being a squirrel and being able to see to his left and his right without having to turn his head. Then he dreamt of being a caterpillar. How great it would be to slither and slide and then one day turn into a colorful butterfly. Then he dreamt of being an ant, marching along with all of the other world's smallest architects. Lastly, he dreamt of being man's best friend and doing cool tricks and getting lots of treats. Mr. Cat finally woke up from his nap. He was still a cat. Yes, he was still a cat, he realized. A cat that napped whenever he needed to. A cat that climbed with perfect grace and balance. A cat that stretched and strolled. Mr. Cat purred, pleased to be a cat. I am a cat, he said. I was made to be that. It's great to be me. She sat on Rooster's birthday cake.
I hope you like our videos today. Don't forget to subscribe, share it, share it, share it.